Hello students, welcome to Legacy as Academy. In this particular video, we are going to discuss about a very big news coming again from the neighboring country of Bangladesh, where it seems that the court or the justice system of Bangladesh is hell-bent with charging Sheikh Hasina related to the crimes against humanity which she allegedly has conducted during her 15 years tenure in the Bangladesh. So let us try to understand what are the charges and what can be the possible future for Sheikh Hasina. Now, in this context, first of all, if we try to understand, ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina could be charged with crimes against humanity. And this is for the first time is something which has been accepted by the International Crimes Tribunal, that is an investigation agency of Bangladesh. Now, the history of International Crimes Tribunal is also going to discuss in detail, but first we have to understand that this is very significant development because crimes against humanity is something which is a very serious crime, which is a very serious charge, and thus if proven, Sheikh Hasina, it will be very difficult for her to return back to Bangladesh because she can be given even life imprisonment and even possibly death sentence. So the court has directed the investigators to produce Sheikh Hasina as well as other officials also. For example, the former Home Minister of the Bangladesh and the former police chief. All of these three have been included and their names have been included in the charge sheet that is filed with the prosecutor. So by June 16th, the court has directed them to produce all these three in front of the court. Now, practically, it seems very difficult and impossible task, at least for Sheikh Hasina, because she has been in exile in India since August 2024. We know that it was in the month of August 2024 when, due to the large-scale protest, largely led by the opposition parties and the students across Bangladesh, there was a risk to the life of Sheikh Hasina and she has to flee, and since then she has enjoyed political asylum in the India as such. Also, in the month of December 2024, the government of Bangladesh has formally requested government of India to extradite Sheikh Hasina back to Bangladesh under the Indo-Bangladesh extradition treaty. However, as far as the government of India is concerned, it has not taken any decisive step in this direction and has not agreed to the demand of the Bangladeshi government as such. Now, if we try to understand about the International Crimes Tribunal, which is going to charge and act against Sheikh Hasina. So, first of all, this tribunal was established as per the International Crimes Tribunal Act. The act was passed by the Parliament of Bangladesh and was passed 2 years after the Liberation War. We know that it was year 1971 when Bangladesh became a separate independent nation after splitting from the Pakistan. Earlier it was referred as East Pakistan. So after the formation of Bangladesh, 2 years later, the International Crimes Tribunal Act was passed, and it is under this particular act the International Criminal Tribunal has been established as such. Now, the main objective and function of this particular tribunal was to detect, prosecute, and punish those persons from Bangladesh who have been involved in activities such as genocide. Genocide basically refers to targeting a group of individuals on the basis of language, ethnicity, race, culture, or anything as such. Crimes against humanity where innocent civilians are being killed, war crimes that refer to a similar kind of situation, and any other crimes. And these crimes, especially this crimes tribunals were largely focused on the crimes that have been committed between 25th of March to 16th of December 1971. It was during this period West Pakistan has led a crackdown against the non-violent protest by Bangladeshi citizens. Especially, it was a conflict between the Urdu majority West Pakistan and Bengali majority East Pakistan that was led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman as such. Now, the reason behind the formation of ICT can also be traced back to the 9-month, as we have discussed, between March to December. It was a bloody 9-month period of fighting that was unleashed by the forces of West Pakistan. The reason was because when the election was conducted in the year 1970, general election was conducted across entire Pakistan, both West Pakistan and East Pakistan. And in the East Pakistan, which is today Bangladesh, the Awami League Party, which was then led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who is the father of Sheikh Hasina, he won the election with a very high majority. You can see that 160 of the 162 electoral seats were won by Awami League. But this particular verdict of the election was something that the ruling establishment of Pakistan, that was largely led by West Pakistan, they refused to accord legitimacy to the win, and they restricted the growth of popular Bengali nationalist sentiment because the West Pakistani government feared that if Sheikh Mujibur Rahman indeed became a prominent political figure, and because of his prominent win election, if he became the Prime Minister of the entire Pakistan, that means Bangla nationalism or Bengali nationalist sentiment will further intensify, increase, and that will threaten the Urdu population or Urdu speaking population of the West Pakistan as such. And also it will also challenge the traditional power which has been enjoyed by the prominent personalities and the military general from West Pakistan as such. So in the year 1971, due to the continuous what you can call as inhumane treatment meted out by the West Pakistani generals, politicians to the Pakistan, to the citizens of East Pakistan, West Pakistan's cultural and political ideas began to be strongly imposed on the people of East Pakistan, and this had galvanized all the people of East Pakistan, and that also has galvanized the support for Bengali independent nation or Bengali speaking independent nation, as we can see. Thus, a large scale protest broke out in the entire region of East Pakistan as such. It was on the March 25th, 1971, the Pakistani military began involved, and they began to have a brutal crackdown on the massive protest that was erupting against the establishment of Pakistan as such. And during this brutal crackdown, we have seen a mass slaughter of Bengalis, and this also resulted into a huge influx of Bangladeshi refugees into India. So when we talk about Bangladesh refugee crisis, the genesis of this crisis can be understood from this particular fact that it was against the crackdown of Pakistani military. The people began to flee and cross even illegally the border of India. And now if you want to relate, you can relate the longest standing demand that the people from Assam or the political parties from Assam has raised, that also was agreed by Rajiv Gandhi government when the Assam Accord was signed, that everyone who has come into India from Bangladesh after this particular date, that is March 25th, 1971, they should be identified and they should be sent back, deported back, because the people after this date have come due to the crackdown of Pakistani military. And since Bangladesh already is today a sovereign independent nation, there is no need for these Bengali people or Bangladeshi people, we can say, to stay inside India. That is why they should go back to Bangladesh. So that is how you can understand the significance of this date from the perspective of all the three countries, India, Pakistan and Bangladesh as such. Then on December 4th, India, that time it was led by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, so it formally declared war on Pakistan, and as a result of the 12 days of continuous fighting, where you have Pakistani military on one side, Indian military has now joined the war, and also you have Bangladeshi forces that we can call as Mukti Bahini, or that is basically called as Mukti Bahini. This resulted into the what you can call as the surrender by the Pakistani military, and a new nation Bangladesh came into existence as such. Now here we have to understand and link it the history of tribunal formation, because as a result or at the conclusion of war, it is believed, as per the report published by a book, well-known book called as a Trials for International Crimes in Asia, some 82,000 members of Pakistani armed forces and about 11,000 civilians were taken as prisoners of war or were taken as interned. Now, in this case, about 195 prisoners of war were allegedly involved in committing of war crimes, and these were the people who were largely who had to be tried by the International Criminal Tribunal that was established in this case. However, 2 years after the formation of Bangladesh, on the February 1974, the Pakistani government formally recognized Bangladesh as an independent state, and then the relationship between the both countries improved as such. Now also, to reciprocate, Bangladeshi government then granted clemency to 195 suspects, and they were repatriated back to Pakistan as such. So the revival of tribunal, if you try to understand, that was then when the tribunal was constructed, tribunal was established, but then it became defunct because there was no one who tribunal could have prosecuted. It was almost, we can say, 30 years later, during the tenure of Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, she revived the idea of trials, and she declared that the intention of tribunal would be to prosecute those members of the political parties who are in opposition to Awami League and who are basically supporting or has supported war crimes as such. And also in this regard, she amended this particular act that was passed in 1974, International Criminal Tribunal Act, as we have discussed. The act was amended in year 2009, and the act was amended to ensure that even civilian population could be included under the ambit of the act, and they can be tried by this particular tribunal. If you try to understand, in the beginning, tribunal was largely created to punish and prosecute members of military wing of the government. However, now civilians could also be prosecuted as per the amended act as such, and thus a 3-member tribunal was created, which today in Bangladesh is referred as International Criminal Tribunal or International Crimes Tribunal as such. Now, once this tribunal came into existence and is revived, the first party or political party that faced the wrath of tribunal was Bangladeshi Jamaat-e-Islam, where we have seen Sheikh Hasina prosecuting and punishing the members of Jamaat-e-Islam because she believed that these people were against the idea of Bangladesh. These people were still in the firm, what you can call as a firm believer that East Pakistan and West Pakistan should remain a single state, and that is why they were against the idea of independence, and thus the tribunal should prosecute them, punish them, and try them. So it is with this idea tribunal was revised as such. Now, as a result of this, under Hasina, ICT sentenced more than 100 people to death who she believed to have opposed or have continuously opposed the idea of Bangladesh as a separate state. The court was often criticized by the rights group for not following the international conventions also. And one example we can understand from the fact that many of the people have been tried in absentia. In absentia means they would not produce in front of the court. That means they did not have opportunity to defend themselves. So they were tried in absentia, and this is something that is against International Covenant on Civil and Political Right, which clearly states that everyone should be given the right, right to defend themselves against any charges that is levied against them. Now, if we talk about the overall decline of the popularity of Sheikh Hasina, so it began when a controversial decision was given by the court of Bangladesh, where it has extended the quota. Quota means we are talking about reservation benefits in both public jobs and education to those people or those students who are descendant of the freedom fighters. Freedom fighter in this regard refer to those people who have participated in the liberation war of Bangladesh in year 1971 and before that. So then a large-scale protest erupted against this quota and reservation benefit, and taking that into consideration, government then agreed that protesters' demand on scrapping the quota will be met. So it seemed that situation will turn out to be normal, but again a controversial statement and remark was made by Sheikh Hasina, the then Prime Minister of Bangladesh, where she equated the protesters with the descendants of Rajakar. Now, Rajakar is a very important term we have to understand there. Rajakar is a term that in Bangladesh is largely used to refer to those people who were against the idea of creation of Bangladesh, who were largely the supporter of the state of Pakistan, and they believed that East Pakistan, West Pakistan should remain part of single status. So though those were considered as what you can call as anti-national, and those were called as Rajakar. So she clearly stated that anyone who is protesting against this particular reservation benefit are the descendants of Rajakar, which created a huge controversy and furor among the student population. And over time, this opposition grew into what we can call as anti-Hasina protest. And as the protest became larger and larger in size and nature, Bangladeshi government and police cracked down with massive brutality. It has resulted into loss of life of more than 450 people, including a lot of students as well. So it is in these contexts we have to understand the charges that is levied against Sheikh Hasina. So first of all, if we talk about the framing of charges, report is coming from a very well-known newspaper of Bangladesh called as the Daily Star. So it has stated that the prosecution has filed 5 charges against Sheikh Hasina in the International Crimes Tribunal. The first charge is of inciting, facilitating and being complicit in, also failing to prevent the crimes committed against civilians, both by the law enforcement and armed cadres of Awami League as well as its affiliates. Because Sheikh Hasina was the Prime Minister, she was the what you can call as the leader of the nation. It was her responsibility to ensure that civilians are not killed, innocent lives are not lost, and it was her responsibility to facilitate a peaceful resolution of the solution. But she has completely failed as a Prime Minister or as a leader of the nation. So that is the first charge. Second charge is ordering the extermination of student protesters through the use of helicopters, drones and lethal weapons. Also, prosecution has said that Sheikh Hasina herself has personally ordered that any student protester who is protesting against reservation, who is protesting against her government, Awami League in general, can be killed by using lethal weapons as such. Third charges, she is also accused of making inflammatory remarks. One example we can understand from the fact that she has said and equated student protester with the descendants of Rajakars and ordering the use of deadly weapons against protesting student. Fourth charge is the shooting and murder of 6 unarmed protesters in Dhaka's Shankarpul and shooting of 6 student protesters in the Ashulia region. So these are the 5 charges which has been framed against Sheikh Hasina. Now, if you try to understand theoretically, she can also be tried in absentia, because if you look ironically, it was her government that brought in provision by amending the original act where anyone can be charged in absentia. That means she does not have to be necessarily present in Bangladesh, and that is why she also will not or may not get the opportunity to defend herself against these charges, as she is largely enjoying political asylum in India. And given the situation, domestic political situation of Bangladesh, it seems very unlikely that either government of India will extradite her or Sheikh Hasina would go by her own will, because anyway her party Awami League has been disqualified as a political party. That means they cannot contest any future election in the Bangladesh, and thus practically if you try to understand, even if ICT found or find her guilty on account of all these crimes, it seems that she might not get punishment, because obviously she is not in Bangladesh and might not get in Bangladesh. So that is all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with the fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to the channel for more such content. Thank you very much.